Hello, my little potatoes, and welcome to another episode of Let's Have a Chat. And today we're going to be tackling one of the three genres of video games. Can you guess which one? Is it number 1, you are a special fighting shoot boy who shoots things? Number 2, oh I get it, it's a metaphor for depression? Or number 3, Nintendo? If you guessed number 2, you'd be correct! Celeste is one of the few games that I think handles depression and anxiety in a positive way. It can be educational for those who aren't suffering from depression, and for the 18.1% of those in America who are suffering from depression. If any of you are still wondering, yes, I'm terrible at video intros and transitions, so without further ado, let's have a chat about Celeste. Celeste is one of those games where the story is honestly really well done. It's well written, it's powerful, it's real, and easy to follow. Or you can skip all the dialogue, but that ultimately changes nothing. The gameplay itself tells the story in the same way. So what is the story of Celeste? Well, a young woman named Madeline goes to climb Celeste Mountain. Once she gets there, she realizes that it's going to be a much harder task than she realized at first. After learning she can zippity zoom, she begins to climb up the mountain, meeting all sorts of crazy characters. Theo the hipster, Mr. Oshiro, the hotel ghost, and an old lady, she's my spirit animal, and, most importantly, part of herself. After a bizarre incident with a mirror on the mountain, Madeline is forced to face her fears and anxieties head-on, in the form of part of herself. The story focuses on Madeline and her overcoming the mountain and the struggles it sends her way. I don't need to spell it out, it's a metaphor for overcoming depression. But where this story differs from other depression metaphors is its use of its story and its gameplay to tell that story. Let's focus on the narrative itself right now, and we'll talk about how the gameplay tells its story a little later. Throughout the game, Madeline has to come to terms with the worst aspects of herself. She needs to fight her need to help Mr. Oshiro, even though she knows he can't be helped by her. She has to fight the urge to push away part of herself instead of facing it. The story has all sorts of moments like this, in between the brutal platforming. There are many moments of quiet reflection where both you and Madeline can just breathe. Walk through a location and don't worry about the tight platforming. And while we're on platforming, let's talk about Celeste's use of gameplay to tell its story. The whole point of the story is that it's a metaphor for overcoming depression. But what if you don't want to read? Well, that's fine, you can just analyze the gameplay for a little bit. You are literally climbing a mountain, each part harder than the next. You have to push yourself to keep going even when it feels impossible. Depression is much the same way. There are moments where you're going to feel stuck, but you just have to keep on pushing on. It's not easy, and you want to scream, to cry, to throw down the controller and give up. But the feeling of conquering a room in Celeste overpowers all the misery you feel, much in the same way that overcoming a depressive episode. It's a great relief to be past that. It took all you had, but you did it. You got past that part in your life. Now it's time to keep trucking ahead. And perhaps most interestingly, I don't think this was intentional on the developers, but much how people struggle with depression in different ways, different people struggle on different parts of Celeste, and I think that's beautiful. Gameplay-wise, Celeste gives you your main tools right at the beginning, a jump and a dash. Where Celeste evolves from this is the introduction of new gameplay mechanics each level, like the crystal that gives you another mid-air dash, or the clouds that act as a trampoline. Every chapter revolves around these new gameplay mechanics until it all culminates in the final chapter. I'm not very good at Celeste, so I don't know all the super cool and technical moves, but I do know you can dash hop, screen dash, and wave dash. I'm sure you can tell from what I've said and the footage I've shown, but Celeste is difficult, and that's all part of building the immersion. Like I said, the game wants you to be challenged because it's not easy to climb a mountain, whether physical or mental. One of the best parts about the game, however, in my opinion, are the collectibles. The strawberries are perfect, they serve as an extra challenge, and they're entirely optional. However, the other two sets of collectibles are a little less fun in my opinion. First, there are the B and C sides of every level. You hunt through the level looking for cassette tapes for a bonus, remixed version of the level once you beat it. For me, someone who's bad at platforming, they don't particularly appeal to me, so I'm more or less neutral on them. However, a collectible that I somewhat actually dislike are crystal hearts. My first issue is that at least 4 crystal hearts are required to access Chapter 8, and even more heart-wrenching is, unlike the cassette tapes, Chapter 8 doesn't feel like optional content. So from a game design standpoint, I'm not a fan of how the game doesn't even let you know crystal hearts are in the game until you get to Chapter 8. You're expected to discover not only that they exist, but collect them all on your own. And the cassette tapes are the same way, but they're optional content, not story content. I don't know, I guess I'm just not a fan of gatekeeping a story behind what should have been considered optional content. However, I will admit, some of the ways you obtain crystal hearts are sick. Another game with an art style over hyper-realism. I don't think I have to spell it out. I'm sure you can guess that I am a very big fan of this game's art style. The 16-bit graphics are both nostalgic and refreshing in a way, as they're much more animated than other indie games. The way things sway in the wind, the bounce of Madeline's idle animation, there are so many cute little things like that in the way that this game is animated. The color palette of this game is also immaculate. It's not only vibrant and beautiful like a perpetual Arctic sunset, but it has its darker and creepier moments, and sometimes even reminds me of Aurora Borealis.
Good Lord, what is happening in there?
Aurora Borealis?
Aurora Borealis. At this time of year, at this time of day, in this part of the country, localized entirely within your kitchen.
Yes.
May I see it?
No.
This game is gorgeous. It looks like an EDM cover. It just makes me smile. Speaking of EDM, let's talk music. It would be a disservice to composer Lena Raine to say that all of the tracks here are just upbeat EDM, because they aren't. There are some genuinely moving, somber, and quiet tracks like Quiet and Falling, as well as some downright ominous Blade Runner shit like In the Mirror. There are plenty of upbeat tracks too, and while those are well composed, to me personally they don't stand out that much, but to each their own. The music in this game is downright magical, and it helps add to the atmosphere. I get really immersed when I play Celeste, and music is a big reason why. Music also serves to push you further, to encourage you. So I love this upbeat music, even if it's not something I'll listen to on a daily basis. I wanted to talk about the world design of Celeste, because I live for that shit. First and foremost, this is a jungle gym. The developers give you plenty of room on almost every screen to experiment with the mechanics. Each level, each screen is meticulously built to create a distinct sense of challenge. Each screen has a couple different ways you can solve it, and I think that's great. You can do it the intended route or the route that you pave using the game's mechanics. The way everything is placed makes perfect sense, giving you just the right amount of player freedom to experiment while also having a direct solution. The backgrounds are absolutely gorgeous, and they slowly evolve from this realistic urban exploration location to this dreamlike state that the game's finale has to it. Realism isn't expected here, namely because it's fantastical. It bends the mind. Besides, the art is absolutely stunning. You can pause at any moment to admire it, and that's so impressive. And this feeds into the narrative portrayed by the gameplay. When the player takes a moment to rest and views the scenery around Madeline, Madeline also takes a moment to rest and collect herself before continuing her trek. Celeste is a truly beautiful and unique game that I highly recommend. There's so much that I didn't cover, stuff that I want you to explore and find for yourself. This game isn't perfect, no game truly is, but Celeste is such a solid experience and it makes me so happy. I still haven't finished Chapter 8, so maybe I should go do that. Anyway, I hope you've all been drinking your water, and have yourselves a damn good one. Hey y'all, I just wanted to give a quick update and some explanations about what I've been doing and what I plan to do. I don't want to make a whole update video, I just want to focus on making content. So you've probably noticed that my videos have significantly shrunk in size, and I think that's kind of an important thing, is the JoJo video wasn't really intended to be an hour long. It was intended to be like 20 minutes, but then I just started getting all these ideas, and I was like, yes, I'm gonna put this in, and I'm gonna put this in, artistic flair here, and I was like, oh, this is so sick. The problem with that is I feel like it's set a precedent for me for Let's Have a Chats, and they're supposed to be these long, like, video essays that you plug in for an hour, and they're basically secondary podcasts, right? But ultimately, I'm having much more fun with this more short-form style content, in the sense that I can write out a script, reasonably record it, reasonably edit it, and I'm enjoying myself a lot, so that's why these are going to be shorter. Also, I know we've mentioned it a lot, but Dudes Say Dumb Shit will be coming back eventually. The boys and I just haven't really had time to record, none of us have all been together or had time, So we're gonna get that done as soon as possible, and hopefully we can get that out to you guys, because I'm very excited for that. Yeah, that's all I want to say. Bye, I guess.